Headwinds can be the bane of a cyclist. What was a nice, enjoyable ride can become a hideous, unimaginable slog with a headwind.
Yeah, I've actually cried into a headwind before.
You what?
Back when I was 17, one of my first ever road rides, I decided I wanted to average 20 miles per hour for 30 miles. And all was going fine until I hit this open stretch of road on an old airfield and saw my average speed tumble. And when it got to 19.8, the tears started rolling down my cheeks. It's a moment I shall never forget.
My word, Dan, you're a sensitive lad, aren't you?
Yeah. So, how should I have approached the headwind section on that day?
Hardening up?
True.
Yeah, now first of all, we should say as well, the average speed is something of a red herring. Now, it's not completely meaningless, but it's not far off, because you see, it's affected by so many other factors, like air pressure, drafting, elevation gain, traffic, that you shouldn't ever really use it as a way of gauging how well you're going.
Yeah, I guess riding into a headwind is almost purely psychological. So it's going to inevitably mean that you're going to have a slower pace, but you've just got to accept it for what it is. Maybe even treat it like a climb, a long period of time where you're going to have to put in a decent amount of effort to get to the top, or indeed the end of the headwind road. There's no point in getting depressed about it, or indeed crying like a baby, as I did.
To be fair, you do that about quite a lot of stuff, though, don't you? YouTube comments.
True.
The other way of thinking about it is that actually this is a very positive thing, because headwinds will make you better. So you see, riding into a headwind, much like climbing, puts you into a zone where you have to work a lot harder, giving you a great workout and then making you ultimately a better rider. In fact, if you've ever got any training sessions to do that are focused on improving your climbing, but you don't have any climbs near you, you can actually use a flat road with a headwind to replicate that session.
Yeah, so what can you do from a technique point of view if you are often having to deal with block headwinds on very long stretches of open road? Well, to start with, you can begin by raising your cadence a little bit so that you're better able to respond to sudden gusts of wind. If you're below 80 RPM, you might well find that you pretty much come to a stop if the wind really blows suddenly very strongly, but if you've got 90 RPM or above, you should be able to respond pretty well.
Yeah, and then the other thing is aerodynamics. We've said many times here on GCN that the biggest thing holding you back on flat roads is your body position. So you want to get a flat back, get your elbows and your knees tucked in, drop your head, and you'll find that you can go much faster for exactly the same power output.
Yeah, this is relevant when there's no wind, and even more so when you're fighting into a headwind. Alternatively, you may want to try and avoid headwinds altogether, and there are a couple of ways that you can try to do this. Firstly, it's a good idea to try and look at a wind forecast before you head out on your ride. That way you can try and plan your route so it traverses the headwind and leaves you coming back with a direct tailwind.
Yeah, secondly, you should try and seek out roads that give you a bit of shelter either by trees or hedges, because the difference it will make is absolutely massive. So when you're planning your route, you want to be using your local knowledge to full effect.
Also, if you're riding in a group or even just the two of you, there's really no point in riding like this side by side. You might as well get the benefits of having one of you sitting in the wheel and taking turns into the headwind. And also, if you're on a big group ride and you know the route you're taking, you can be a little bit sneaky and time your turns on the front so they coincide with the tailwind sections or sheltered bits of road, and then just shuffle towards the back and sit in when you get to the headwind.
I just thought it was coincidence that that happened to you.
No, just using my headwind.
My word. While headwinds are an unfortunate necessity for regular riders, then you should still try and avoid them at all costs. But if you are faced with a lengthy section, don't let it get you down. Just think of it like a climb, and then think of all the good it's going to do your fitness and your mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Just look what it did to Dan.
True. No longer crying. If you would like to see our video on how to plan your winter training to become a better rider, you can find that just up here. Alternatively, if you'd like to see that video where we show you how to train for climbs if you don't live near any, you can find that by clicking down there.
Before you go to either of those though, do make sure you subscribe to GCN just to click on us battering into a headwind.
Yeah, we shouldn't be doing this together actually. You should,
Oh man, he's done it again! Ah!
so much easier. I'm saving way more than 50. I'm not even pedalling. In fact, I'm coming past you without pedalling. It's this.
That's that bike. So aero.
Look. It's almost
You
like
actually are.
it's almost like we're not
How he's done
actually in a
that?
headwind.
He's got a motor in his bike. He's got a motor. Here,